Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you another video. Alright, so figured I'd do a therapy session for whatever reason, who knows. I'm feeling pretty good. Nothing bad at all. It's early in the morning on a early, what is it? The 22nd of December. I think that's where we're at. Christmas is right around the corner. Hanukkah season, Kwanzaa, happy holidays everybody. So what am I thinking about? I got on here after listening to Brittany Renner talk about how she didn't want to, she doesn't look fondly upon her list of people that she's been with physically, and she thinks about the soul ties and the fact that she was sharing herself with those people because she didn't know her self-worth at the time, and this is something that she wouldn't have done now had she had been, aware of what it is that she feels about herself and how those soul ties, those people didn't deserve that she felt those soul ties are for women in regards to, when they let a man mate with them, a piece of their spirit stays with that person. And I've heard that a lot of times over the years as well. That's not the first time I heard that concept, but it's one of those things where it's like, as a spiritual person, you have to assume something like that could have some truth to it, if you believe in that sort of thing. If you're not a spiritual person, I don't think that that's devoid of some truth for you too, because at the end of the day, bringing people into your life makes it so that you have some ties to their circumstances. Obviously, if it's a physical thing, it's going to have some ties to, how whatever it is that they got going on. If they happen to have something, you may get it, that kind of thing. So the word political comes to mind, but more so the social aspects of it, or what ties could bind you to other people based on now your relationship with them and how compromised that relationship could be, especially if you're talking about mutual friends being involved, secrets being involved, business being involved. It could become a situation where it's not as simple as two people enjoying one another. And so even if you're not a spiritual person, you could definitely see where letting certain people into your life that way could definitely bring some extra stuff with it that maybe you don't want. So that's something to know. Obviously, we walk this earth. We know how it is. To some degree, we all have to live with people leaving our lives and having shared certain things with those people. That's part of the adjustment and moving on and letting people go. So I think for every person it's a little different. As I become more open-minded, I just think the most important thing is to help people learn to live with what they can live with. I tell people, do what you can live with. You know what I mean? Some people can find themselves very happy with their choices. Other people make certain decisions and then find themselves in positions where they wish they didn't make them. And so it's like, if you know who you are, then you know what you can handle. You know what you can take on. So if you're not somebody who has the mindset to be dealing with multiple people, then maybe you should consider settling down with just one person. If you're the type of person who can't settle down with one person, then maybe you shouldn't try to. These are things that we just have to know ourselves and to know what we can handle. And so that's part of the conversation too. But I tell you, what turned me into turning on this camera was thinking about how I handle some of those situations. Back in the day, in relationships I've been in, and it's been a long time since I really got myself in something like that, something serious. But a lot of times I was in it trying to look for things that I could not actually find from that person. She would be there and I would be looking to her to fulfill something that only God could fulfill, only my mother was able to fulfill. And those are roles that were already filled, and so then it became a situation where it's like, okay, do I know myself? Am I walking around being my very best self? Am I walking around happiest? Am I walking around feeling like me? And if so, that would be the best version of myself to pair with someone else. But for the longest time, I've been looking for happiness, looking for inner peace, looking for easing to my own anxieties, looking for easing to my own insecurities and things of that nature. And I didn't look to find that in relationships. I didn't look to find that in other people. A lot of times I equated what would bring forth that anxiety would be coming from other people in my mind, and to equate liking somebody a lot of times when you're insecure as a child and don't believe your appearance to be that of anything that would anyone be attracted to. You kind of look at the understanding of someone wanting to be with you in that way is something that's not to be taken seriously. You don't even think somebody actually likes you even when they do. So a lot of my mindset was that kind of stuff, since I had such deep self-loathing, I guess. I don't think I hated myself that much, but it was more so just looking at myself in that way, saying absolutely no one would ever look at me that way. And so you live that way all the way up until you're like 15 years old. And it's like your mind don't develop properly to want those things as you grow older than that. Even though you have certain relationships, it's not like I need to be with somebody or that I'm in between relationships. Relationships is like something that occurs. If it does, cool. If it never happens, I'm not wired to long for it. I'm wired to look around and see other people longing for it, and having certain good things and bad things, mostly bad, to be honest with you, come from kind of picking the wrong people and settling in those situations and letting children become of that. Now, once the kids come, I don't ever really look at it as a mistake, because the kids are going to bring an entirely new variable that could bring happiness to a situation where there is none, and love to lives where there are none. So I can see good things come from children, as well as, unfortunately, some unwanted responsibilities. But at the same time, it's like when you're involved in a relationship and there ain't no children involved, it's about you and that person and how long and how well you guys can get along. And I think a lot of times people just come together for the wrong reasons. And as we talk about a lot in this channel, I think by suggestions and certain propaganda, we're kind of coerced into those choices, looking a certain way. And now you're taught by way of your culture to want certain things that don't bring you closer to people that help you build a home, secure your mindset, help you build a foundation spiritually. A lot of those things are not taught to us. We're taught to be selfish beings. We're taught to put ourselves before everyone else. We're taught to not care about how we're perceived in a lot of situations and a lot of propaganda, depending on our group. So you look at certain groups and they're taught to chase money and not a pairing that fits your personality and people that fit your morals and stuff like that. You're not even looking for that, because you're looking for certain other things, vanity stuff, how well that person looks, their body, or what have you. And you're taught that this is what you should want, and shunned from wanting the things that matter. You even hear it in the music. I don't care about no love, just give me the money. I don't care, just make sure your body's done. And that kind of stuff is, for a lot of minds, important in regards to how they walk around the world and wake up in the morning and look for what it is they want. They don't have the discernment to say, yo, even though I see a million commercials and hear a million songs telling me that this is what I should want, they don't have it in their hearts and in their agreements and the people around them to say, you know what, that's not what we're doing anyway. Despite this having a multi-trillion-dollar propaganda machine pointed at the human race in regards to the subject, we're going to look at it with a different lens, and we're going to do things that actually help ourselves, as opposed to hurting us off a cliff like they're trying to. These are the type of things that most people just don't know how to do in our society. So as a result, they get coerced or roped into these situations where they want the wrong things and get the wrong consequences and find themselves unhappy, and then thus don't believe in love. I don't believe in love. Every time I find somebody, it's no good. Well, that's because you're following the blueprint of those who don't love you. And that is exactly what the problem is. You're looking for love and taught by people who don't love how you should find love. And that's why God is so important. Because even though people don't believe in God, a lot of times, what you got to understand is the variable that's being used against you has God incorporated in its understanding. Under God, one nation. Everything they do has an understanding that there's a deity that all of us are supposed to be adhering to, but most definitely the subordinates, that is the human race. We're definitely supposed to adhere to a God. And because of it, they can tell us what that God wants of us and then have us doing all kinds of weird stuff because of that. So that's why it's important you have your own relationship with your higher power, not one that has a middleman to it. I respect your church. I respect the government. I respect our history and all that. But if you don't have that one-on-one innermost connection with something that you can consider your creator, then you best believe that propaganda machine, that $1 trillion propaganda machine, is all in your head. If you've ever had a device, is including the one we're holding right now, if you've ever had walked past a billboard, if you've ever heard a song in a any type of music that is being played in 2022, if you've heard a song before, then you've been subjected to these suggestions that would basically lead you to either a broken home, low frequency, selfish mindset that has you loving things and prioritizing spirit last, prioritizing foundational building of your household last, pairing of good even yolks, so to speak, last. You won't think of that stuff. You'll be thinking about how I can get the finest woman that is comparable to the finest ladies on IG, and hopefully she's put $500,000 or more into her body so she can look the way that, look like an ant. And then from there, we can start moving forward in the norms that matter in 2022 that ultimately lead us off a cliff, where we end up alone with unhappy children who want to take everything from us in the end if we have anything to leave. This is what they want for you. This is how this keeps them in power, so they can keep suggesting the same nonsense to future generations. And I'm telling you, it starts there. It starts there. If you look around, a lot of stuff that we want just comes from people telling us what we want. If you remove that stuff, we're just sitting in a blank room without any answers to questions that we should be asking ourselves. What do you want? What's the type of person you like? Who am I? What am I lying to myself about that makes me think I'm best for something that I'm actually not best for? They ain't going to tell you that. They ain't going to tell you that. Because they're showing you images of people that you're not, showing you what you need to be going after is if you're them. That's not even a real life thing. A lot of those are images. Propaganda, as I said, art, TV shows and stuff like that. This is what love is. This is what a prince and a princess is. This is garbage. This is somebody's dream. What's real is your relationship with God. And He'll bring you what your knight in shining armor or your princess or whatever it's supposed to be. That is where the goodness comes from. That's where you're going to have the ability to sit down with that princess. And even if y'all tired of each other, or that prince, even if y'all have gotten way past the attraction, y'all still can find a way to raise an 11-year-old daughter. Like, these are the type of things they ain't going to teach you that in these songs. They ain't going to teach you that you should want that type of stuff when they showing you all these images of these sexy people and stuff like that. They don't care nothing about. When they try to get you to pop them pills and spin the block and all these different things that are pointed at our people particularly, or whatever's pointed at your group, which probably is some variation of you hating yourself or wanting the wrong things or valuing money or some crap. It's always some nonsense. Worshiping something that ain't God. Worshiping yourself, looking in yourself, saying, I'm God, and from there not being able to heal yourself for stuff like cancer and stuff. They got no answer for that. Do they have an answer for that? Those people who tell you you're the all-seeing everything, you're the greatest, and all the stuff starts with you and your affirmations. Do they tell you how to heal cancer? They have not, have they? Did they tell you how to manifest a removal of sexual transmitted disease? They didn't do that, huh? No, they didn't tell you how to do that because that's not something you can do, right? And you know why that's something you can't do? You can't do that because you're not God. And that's what I keep telling people. It's like, it's okay to embrace not being an all-powerful, all-world being. There is a sense of strength in submission. There's something to gain from doing what is most difficult to do, and being submissive in the presence of something greater than you when you feel all-powerful is, in fact, the most difficult thing to do in a situation. Putting your chest out saying you are the all-seeing eye and the greatest, and then not being able to deliver on that is more difficult, is actually an easier thing. When you consider that nobody can deliver on that and everybody can stick their chest out and act as if they're greater than they are. But can you deliver? No. All right, then the more difficult and more honorable thing would be to say that I cannot, that I am not God, that I don't have answers here, that I need to submit to something greater than myself, and maybe I don't even know who or what that is. But I know I ain't got the answer, so it got to be somewhere other than where I am. So for me to sit up here and exalt myself and stand on the hill and say I'm the greatest thing ever, and I can't even heal my damn self of cancer, then that is something I could not, in fact, deliver on. So these are the things that we have to look in the mirror and be secure in. Because those type of things, these are the things that are suggested against us. They tell us that we are the God. We must be, we are the center of the universe. Everybody revolves around the main character, all this other bull crap. That ultimately makes us worse people and ultimately points us toward things coming at us that we don't like. Now everybody hates you because you're the main character. Now everybody can't stand you because you are selfish. Now people don't have nothing good to say about you. But at your funeral, when they all lying around you, nah. And that's what they want. Many of people went in their grave chasing the wrong stuff. You can see it printed on their caskets. I'm telling you, it don't have to go this way, man. It's propaganda. You know how many of those people would love to have hopped out of those realities and say, man, I want to do my life over again because now I realize I was a bunch of bullcrap and ain't none of it real? You know how many brave soldiers who could have changed the world with their bravery but instead pointed their guns at each other, and that's why they gone now? That's what I see. The spin the block generation that we're in right now. If these kids had their minds pointed at what their real enemies are, they could change the world for real. They could change it for real because they're not afraid of nothing. When you consider what it is they're dealing with every day. I just saw footage of a kid sitting in a hospital bed. He had been shot, over 9 times? And the first thing he did when he's waking up is turning on his phone to taunt his ops for not killing him. That's fearlessness, bro. That's fearlessness. That's the type of fearlessness that white supremacy does not want pointed at them. And this is the elephant in the room. Why you think they're investing in us killing each other, bro? Because they know if they have to face that demon themselves, they ain't gonna do nothing but die. This is the reality of our strength. But we don't know how to be fearless in the face of what actually will help us. We don't know how to be fearless in the face of gaining what is most difficult, which would probably give us a higher frequency and a higher energy and a better spirit and a better reflection on ourselves when we look in the mirror. These type of things, they don't want us to be secure in the idea that we can be submitting to God and then find power from that. They want you to think that the only power you have is to be insecure in the face of a God and say, I have to be God in order to live God. Wrong. That's bad math. When you empower the God that created you, you will empower yourself. It's when you draw away from that God. It's when you think that you're better than that God to where that God can't help you no more. It's a lie that they're telling you. Oh, I'm the all-seeing, I'm the best. No, submission to God is your strength. Because you ain't got no choice in the first place. It's a facade to think that you're in another environment that he doesn't create or control. This is his. This is his. In the presence of thinking he don't exist, you're living in his reality that he created. And that's the funny part about the devil. He wants you to think that God doesn't exist and that he doesn't exist. But the reality is God is in control of the whole thing. So when you leave him out as a variable, your math is always going to not actually add up. It's going to not actually add up. And of course, the devil being a racer wants things not to add up. So you got to see the math in that. So I always tell people there's never going to be any good in doing things evil. It's never going to be any good in lashing out and not holding yourself accountable. It's never going to be any good in letting people do things that ain't no good slide. Why? Because more people will walk the earth and those examples will be seen. And more ambition will drive them to be even worse. You got to nip that in the bud in every way possible, and you have to stop the overall great entity that's funneling us toward bad energy on purpose so that we can be confused. That is a culture that doesn't need to exist anymore, especially when we know better. We got norms that aren't normal, and it's meant to keep us from evolving properly. Simply put, people hated us and they want us to stay that way. And I ain't just talking about black people, although I am talking about us. I'm talking about everybody. And I think about white supremacy and white privilege. And you know what comes to mind? Poor white people that don't benefit from it. It's the great conundrum. Because when you start thinking about who's benefiting, who's the examples of people who are supposed to be benefiting from all this, and you look at the grand majority, the truth is the grand majority is on welfare. They've been lied to about who they should blame, and that's ultimately where racism comes from. It's the elitists lying to their poor cousins about who is actually doing them wrong, what they're actually taking from them. But this is what's been going on the whole time in this country. White supremacy has been pointed against white people. And the conundrum of ignorance would allow others who are not white to not see that a lot of times. Because the evil's pointed at us too. And they point the poor people at the black people, say blame them. Point the poor people at the Mexican people, say blame them. When it's really elite white supremacy that's drawing from their life's blood while lying to them about what they should be exalting themselves about. Exalting yourself about your skin? No, friends. No. Exalt yourself about the fact that you were created by a God that loves you. That's where your strength is, not in your skin. It's not in your money. It's not in your land. It's not in who you can take from whom or what. Nothing. These were lies. They were always lies. They've been lies. And the secret is for the middleman to hide in the shadows and act like he's not there and point the people at each other. Have them hating each other, have them looking at different tools that they can use to help each other as things that they should be using to hate each other instead. No. I don't have the answer to the abortion, and what should be and what shouldn't be, but I know it's a tool. It is a tool, and if it's used the right way, it can help some, and it can be used the wrong way to annihilate an entire people. This is the truth. This is the truth. You could save a 9-year-old girl from having to go through a reality where she can't be a proper mother who raise a child as a child. That tool may be able to help her health in this situation. If used to help her health in the situation, maybe there could be some conundrum that helps the situation be palatable for those of us who are pro-life, who don't want to see no child ever be aborted. I don't have an answer. It's a conundrum in our world that just makes an evil have to slip through the cracks one way or another. We just have to keep searching for the truth in ways to help other areas of that situation. I think other aspects of that conversation help. Like, how do you get predators to confess? That's a better way to help that conversation. And how do you, push forth an energy in regards to that tool? I don't know what to do with the tool, but we definitely need to create an environment for which that tool isn't necessary to be having to use on children no more. You understand what I'm saying? So that rape culture isn't something that is prevalent anymore. So it isn't used as much for that. That's the answer. I don't have an answer to what happens with the tool. I don't know if you can erase the tool and effectively help the people. I don't know. I've watched too many women die in childbirth for that. I don't know. Sometimes the children pass away too. I don't know how to look at that particular scenario and say there's no solution when I have this tool. I don't know that I can do that. But I think a lot of people want things to be either or, and they don't realize until they're faced with a gray situation that hits their home that it's not okay to just either or everybody else's circumstances. That tool is needed for those people. Just because I don't agree with it in my circumstance from my corner of the room doesn't mean that tool isn't absolutely necessary in that scenario. And absolutely perverted in the other scenario. Absolutely taken advantage of in the other scenario. Used to annihilate an entire race of people in the other scenario. It's possible. It's probable when you consider the history. So these are things that we have to live with. They exist at the same time. I look at the Tory Lanez story and I'm seeing what's going on there. It turns out there's a lot of people lying. Everybody there seems to be doing wrong. All of them should be looked at a certain way. It's not either or. It's always some gray area. It's always some people doing stuff they ain't got no business doing, reacting in bad energy in regards to the bad energy coming their way. If you don't see a pattern of people forgiving people for stuff that happens to them, just for you did something to me, turn the other cheek, I'm sorry. You did something to me, turn the other cheek, I'm sorry. Chances are when something happens to them, they're going to do something wrong too. 7 out of 10 people going to do something wrong too. So when you're looking at a situation, it ain't never just, they and I was innocent. No, because look at your patterns of your life and your history. Have you ever treated most things that way? Hell no, you haven't. So why am I assuming that you've treated this situation that way? You didn't. You just didn't. And just because you're willing to lie about it to make the other person look like they're the only one did something don't mean that that's the case. 9 out of 10 times you did something too. 9 out of 10 times you ain't turned the other cheek. Why? Because the propaganda of this world we're in, they teach you to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes we just got to look at the environment we're in and say, yeah, that's what it is. And I look at this YSL situation, seeing everybody snitching. Is the government going to leave any other room for these black people to look any other way but snitches when this all turns out? That's the only way this was ever going to play out. They've been promoting snitching and the way snitching is supposed to be shunned and celebrated both at the same time through their kid 6ix9ine over the last several years. And now you see this YSL situation. Would you think these kids go walk away looking like they can hold their honor? They're meant to break us. They ain't gonna let you keep your honor. Whole point is to buck break your ass. You ain't been watching them buck break black people all 2022? They've been doing it all year. YSL just another version of that. They ain't gonna let them boys walk away looking like nothing but snitches. That's all. And then when the collateral damage happens and then somebody died because of it, ain't nobody gonna look at the government and say, why y'all do that? Why did you guys put all of these people in danger by promoting this nonsense in the name of putting away the bad guys? Are you not bad guys for putting people's lives in danger doing this bullcrap? No one's gonna ask that question. No one's gonna ask it but me, apparently. But I see the clear blue sky truth that these are the same people that say 3/5 of a human being was black 400 years ago. They government and they laws, these are the same laws they're using to string up Young Thug and anybody else that did anything wrong. But they do it in a different way for whom they want to do it too. This Young Thug kid, they put him in a position to be the most famous rapper he could be for a little while. And they had all this information on him back then. They was watching him do all the stuff that he was doing leading up to all that. They was putting the money or allowing him to make the money that he was using to do whatever it is they said he did. Ain't nobody gonna talk about those who were enabling him the whole time. The government who was watching him the whole time. Whoever died or whatever they said happened, they was watching him when it happened. They could have came in and stopped something. They was watching him. See, this is stuff we don't even ask. We don't never do that. We don't never do that. If we just go sit up and say, oh, them dudes are doing stupid stuff and the government gonna do what the government do. Nah, the government is doing crazy stuff. Y'all watching them do it. Y'all act like it's normal. It ain't normal. They're experimenting with our stuff right now in regards to this legal system and this court system. Got cameras all in there, leaks all in the room. You listen to people snitching. It's wrong, man. And if somebody gets shot because they lashing out against some damn snitches, like they've been taught to hate snitches, because it's popular culture to hate snitches, especially when they're black. But now it's getting to a point where it's like they're toying with that, like people haven't lost their lives, like people ain't killed people over this, like little children haven't lost their lives over this snitch bull crap. The government acting like they ain't seen the bodies, like they ain't buried the people. They know what happens when they do this, and we just let them do it. Catching the bad guy, right? Now you're not catching the bad guy. You're playing mind games with people. You're playing mind games. You're showing examples of how afraid we should be. But then, on the other end, you talk out the side of your backside because you're going to pour millions of dollars into the same thing you're telling us to fear doing. Which is it? Do we need to fear it or do we need to buy it? Am I supposed to spin the block or am I supposed to be afraid you're going to give me 100 years? Which is it? Because you're pouring money into the suggestion of spinning the block and then you're giving me 100 years when I do so. So tell me what the hell you want me to do. But look at you like people were trying to funnel me into hell. Come on. I'm not supposed to say this, right? None of this is supposed to be on my mind. But when I think about love, relationships, I think about a child. And when I think about a child, I think about the world they're going to be coming in. When I think about the world they're coming in, I think about these idiots and the evil behind them. And I call them idiots because they think they're God living in a world that's controlled by him. Morons. Don't you see? He's coming. Don't you see? This is the end of that. We're waking up. We've been awake. Some of these messages y'all want to crush Kyrie for, y'all didn't realize this stuff been in the music for 10 years. They've been calling us original Hebrews for years. Some of these artists that y'all give Grammys to, yeah, I ain't gonna name them, but they've been telling us we was the Hebrews for years. Morons. You was investing in them too. It wasn't just spinning and killing and drinking and effing. Nah, they was telling us who they was and they was telling us who we were in some of them songs too. You just didn't realize it because they was on the album cuts. When they wasn't singing about liquor and singing about shooting. And the songs that you was investing in the singles, they was telling us, hey, this is what's going on. And so we was listening. So was your daughters, so was your sons. They're going to turn on you too. Just like the slave trade. You can't keep this going. You can't promote people's culture and then think that your children ain't going to love those people. That don't work that way. All that nonsense and the evil you push through your generations, oh, hatred. What's going to end up happening is you're going to see the wonders of the culture. Then they're going to see how we love one another. Then they're going to see how other people love us too, as they have been. And you know what happens after that? Turn on you. More John Browns. That's what happens after that. And those who know John Brown know what I'm talking about. There's more of them. End lovers, as they call them. So I'm saying that white supremacy was always pointed at poor white people. And the truth was always in the way that they treated others, man. All you had to do was just look. Look around. Where's your money? You have nothing, but you are supposed to have privilege. You're white. You're supposed to have privilege. Why do they leave you in squalor? And they blame us. They blame them. We ain't taking nothing from you. The Mexicans ain't taking nothing from you. Who opened the gates? It's the same people you're voting for, friends. But you ain't listening to me because they didn't effectively got your mind away from listening to anything black. It's just, you're never going to hear that. And that's why they have you by the balls. I always say, how do they always get us? Patronizing us, making groups think that you're the number one thing, making you think you're not the number one thing until you are that day. And then that day you realize that this is always what you've wanted. And you always wanted to be first. It's a competition between great races and groups. We must be the best. We must be the ones exalted the best. That's nonsense. That's incremental them giving us incremental little bits of what they want us to have and us yearning for it. It's bull crap's mind games. All of it's nonsense. If you benefit from it, look for the perversion of it. That's how we have to train ourselves. I'm a black person. If I see Black Lives Matter, I'm looking for an idiot trying to make money off of it. If I see White Lives Matter, I'm looking for a dummy that's trying to tell me white people are racist. This is how we have to think right now. It ain't because we don't love ourselves. It ain't because we C-word OONs. It's because we understand that things are being manipulated deliberately, and this is how they've been able to sow themselves within the fabrics of our souls by way of our very own self-exhaustion and sin. Once you step aside and realize you're not the most important thing in the world, then you see them. Because they can't hide after that. Just like your love of money. Oh, he loves money. I must have money. I'm chasing money. You can't see him when you're doing that, but when you stop, you can see. When you stop doing what it is you're quote unquote supposed to do, you look around and you see them standing there. They're hidden in the vibrations of that motion. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.